In the depths of World War II, while cities lay in ruin and soldiers fought in distant lands, a secret project shrouded in mystery began to unfold, what would later be recognized as the Manhattan Project. But what if I told you that the story you've heard about this monumental endeavor is merely the tip of the iceberg? You might be asking yourself, how did a group of scientists, many of whom were refugees from oppression, inadvertently shape the future of warfare and alter the course of human history? Stay with me as we unravel the untold story of the Manhattan Project, a tale of brilliance mixed with desperation, ambition, and moral quandaries. Picture it, the early morning of July 16, 1945, in the remote New Mexico desert. As the sun began to rise, the sky would be transformed forever by the energy of the atom. The world was oblivious to the struggle taking place within the confines of Los Alamos Laboratory, where the Manhattan Project's brain trust was on the verge of what they dubbed Trinity, the first ever atomic explosion. What motivated these brilliant minds to contribute to something that could potentially wipe out entire cities? This is where our exploration begins. The Manhattan Project drew together the greatest scientific minds of the time. The likes of J. Robert Oppenheimer, Enrico Fermi, and Richard Feynman would become names synonymous with genius. But the human stories behind these titans often get overshadowed by their monumental achievements. Each of these individuals faced their own crossroads, decisions that would haunt them for the rest of their lives. You might be wondering, what personal sacrifices did they make, and what didn't they tell the public? One key figure, J. Robert Oppenheimer, often faced the moral turmoil that became part and parcel of his genius. By the time he stood on that New Mexico desert, he had become the father of the atomic bomb, a title that looked great on a resume but pierced him with guilt. Known for his profound quote, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds," Oppenheimer's words resonate with chilling significance. But beyond the star-studded narrative, there lies a more complex emotion beneath his calm exterior. Surprising, isn't it? As you continue to engage with this story, remember that while cities like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were obliterated by the atom bomb, the minds behind the project, scientists who idealized the application of their craft, were often conflicted over their role in this destruction. To many, the bomb was initially a means of securing peace, a deterrent against tyrannical regimes, but as we know now, the consequences were catastrophic. In our quest to dig deeper, let's venture into the world of espionage and secrecy that surrounded the Manhattan Project. Perhaps one of the most shocking dynamics is that some of Oppenheimer's closest colleagues were actually involved in espionage, passing information to the USSR. You might be surprised to find out that the urgency to beat Nazi Germany also propelled another hidden agenda, the race against the Soviets. How did this secretive atmosphere affect the team's morale? What kind of personal sacrifices did their motivations demand? Life for the scientists often involved long hours, sleepless nights, and emotional ambivalence. Workdays were spent not just deciphering complex equations but grappling with the knowledge that their work could lead to widespread death. With each breakthrough, they celebrated, but those celebrations were often shadowed by the torment of what lay ahead. The revelations of their findings would lead to existential dilemmas, as some of them wanted to make the process of fission widely known post-war, others feared the implications of such openness. What does that tell us about human nature? The quest for knowledge versus the imperative of responsibility. Then consider the unseen elements around the project. Women were vital to the Manhattan Project, yet their stories remain largely untold. One pivotal figure was Lise Meitner, not directly involved in the project but instrumental in discovering nuclear fission. How is it that someone whose contributions changed the world would not receive proper recognition? Was this omission systematic or merely an oversight of the times? As we look at the project through this lens, it prompts us to ask, what other aspects of history have we overlooked? In every corner of the Manhattan Project's realm, we find fascinating human stories. For example, let's turn our attention to the security measures taken to protect this secret. Imagine armed guards patrolling key research sites, a labyrinth of wires and secrets keeping prying eyes at bay. There were constant tensions, hidden agendas, and unexpected threats. Scientists double-checked their notes, editors scrutinized newspaper drafts, and every letter, every packet sent out bore weight. What if a single slip-up meant delivering the world's most terrifying weapons to adversaries? But wait, there's more. Have you ever wondered about the impact of the Manhattan Project on ordinary American lives? As the scientists dedicated their lives to this esoteric work, the nation was hypnotized by its daily life, but unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. In homes across America, families live their lives blissfully ignorant of the grim balance unfolding in the strategic rooms in Los Alamos. Concerned though they may have been about the war, most Americans didn't know what devastation loomed on the horizon. Their share of the narrative was built upon a mix of fear and hope, reminiscent of a potent cocktail. Things began to shift after the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The horrifying images and news broadcasts shattered the facade of normalcy. Suddenly, names like Oppenheimer and Fermi became household items, not for their brilliance in science, but as the grim architects of hell itself. What did this psychological shift mean for the generation that lived through these events? The contradictory emotions of relief that the war was over mixed with terror and confusion over newfound technology led to widespread debates about peace, power, and the nature of humanity. And speaking of nature, a lesser-known story concerns the environmental impacts of the project. Did you know that the development of the bomb ultimately led to contamination and destruction of ecosystems in the areas of testing? The legacy of the project wasn't just about atomic energy or military might, but rather echoed through the natural world in ways that we are still grappling with today. The irony of humanity's quest for power leading to its own potential destruction becomes even starker when we consider how the fallout from tests affected generations of wildlife and humans alike. As we delve deeper, the human stories begin to weave themselves into a larger tapestry of ethical dilemmas. The conversations among scientists regarding the bomb's use illustrated a noteworthy divide. Some viewed it as a necessary evil for the greater good, while others warned of creating a new era of warfare that could spiral out of control. Were they playing God by creating such a weapon, or were they simply scientists compelled to explore the unknown? It's this juxtaposition of ambition and morality that invites us to reflect on our contemporary relationship with technology. Just as in the Manhattan Project, we live in a time of rapid advancements that hold both promise and peril. Are we learning from history's lessons, or are we destined to repeat them? As we immerse ourselves in the intricacies of the past, we stand at a crossroads. How do we balance scientific advancement with ethical responsibility? The Manhattan Project did not just birth the atomic bomb, it ignited a seismic shift in the fabric of international relations, science, and society. Countries began to view nuclear capabilities not just as military tools but as symbols of power and supremacy. This opened a Pandora's box of geopolitical tension that remains palpable today. As we approach the second half of this exploration, it's essential to recognize that the ramifications of the Manhattan Project extend beyond its immediate achievements. What happens when knowledge given to a few is wielded over many? This is the crucial question we must confront. Stay with us as we continue to navigate through this labyrinth of ambition, retribution, and an unquenchable thirst for power that defined the Manhattan Project and continues to influence us today. What comes next will leave you questioning the very essence of our human endeavor for progress. As we continue this journey through the Manhattan Project, we must wrestle with the implications of its legacy. Closing the chapter of World War II did not signify the end of atomic development, rather, it marked the beginning of an era characterized by an arms race. The atomic bomb became a powerful symbol in international politics, one that nations felt they could not afford to overlook. As countries scrambled to acquire nuclear capabilities, we witnessed the dawn of the Cold War, steeped in paranoia and mistrust. Imagine a world where scientific achievement and military strategy are intertwined, an intricate dance of power play and subterfuge. The creation of the atomic bomb had inadvertently changed the world's political landscape forever, introducing the doctrine of mutually assured destruction, MAD. The delicate balance of power hinged on the stark understanding that any nuclear conflict could lead to annihilation on both sides. This chilling realization led to countless nights of anxious diplomacy as world leaders grappled with maintaining a tenuous peace in the shadow of nuclear capability. How did this affect not only global relations but the psyche of ordinary citizens who felt the weight of such a threat looming over them? Turning our eyes toward the fallout from Hiroshima and Nagasaki, we confront a striking difference between the scientists' anticipated uses of their invention and the horror it unleashed. What drove some scientists to remain steadfast in their belief that the bomb had hastened the end of the war, thus saving lives, while others were burdened with guilt for the destruction? This dichotomy reflects humanity's capacity for rationalization in times of crisis, a defense mechanism that many clung to in the explosive aftermath. In fact, many members of the scientific community began to advocate for nuclear disarmament after witnessing the devastation firsthand. The ambitious motivations that sparked the Manhattan Project transformed into a cautious plea for restraint. Figures like Oppenheimer publicly condemned the arms race, understanding too well the Pandora's box they had helped to open. Yet, this transition was fraught with turmoil. How could these scholars navigate the political repercussions of their statements while still advocating for a world free of nuclear threats? As the Cold War progressed, secrecy persisted as a primary tenet of nuclear policy. The ramifications of the Manhattan Project echoed through intelligence operations, espionage, and retaliatory doctrines. The architects of the bomb were further complicit in this cycle. Unwittingly, they had set in motion a path laden with geopolitical tension, akin to a chess game where the stakes were nothing short of catastrophic. But what of the scientists' moral responsibilities? The debates surrounding the ethics of nuclear research proliferated, bringing into relief a critical philosophical question: can scientific progress exist without accountability? Consider the implications of this inquiry beyond the realm of nuclear warfare. As technology gallops forward in our modern age, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and cyber capabilities, we find ourselves at another critical juncture. Are we prepared for the ethical ramifications that accompany such advancements, or are we repeating the same patterns that define the nuclear age? Among the most profound consequences of the Manhattan Project was its effect on the scientific community itself. Disillusionment began to permeate the halls of academia and laboratories, compelling many to consider the ethical dimensions of their work. Scholars who had once pursued knowledge with unwavering enthusiasm found themselves grappling with the potential consequences of their discoveries. They faced a stark reality: the avenue of scientific inquiry was not just a pursuit of knowledge but also laden with moral implications that could either enrich or devastate society. International responses to the nuclear threat were varied. Some countries initiated their own nuclear programs, influenced not only by prestige but also by security needs. The ripple effects were felt across nations, as states reconceptualized their military strategies, vying for dominance on a much darker playing field. The irony is palpable: a creation born from curiosity spiraled into a struggle for supremacy, and as nations expanded their arsenals, the world teetered on the brink of disaster. As we examine this ongoing struggle, we must also acknowledge the humanitarian crises born from nuclear conflict. The aftermath of the bombings in Japan left an indelible mark on the survivors, the hibakusha. Beyond the physical devastation, the psychological scars and societal stigmas endured by Hiroshima and Nagasaki's residents pose a stark reminder of the human cost of war. These individuals became living testimonies to the horrors inflicted by mankind's quest for power. Their stories serve as poignant narratives in an era defined by fear and loss, pressing us to honor the lives affected by decisions made in rooms far removed from battlefields. Delving into reflective writings from these survivors reveals not only their immense suffering but also a profound resilience. Their accounts challenge us to confront the darker aspects of human innovation and the duality of progress. How do we reconcile the progress of science with its potential for destruction? Each narrative stands as a testament to the human spirit, a cry for peace amidst conflict, echoing sentiments that resonate even in today's world. As the dust began to settle on the initial decades of the nuclear age, activist movements began to blossom, shedding light on the moral duties scientists and governments held. The formation of groups aimed at advocating disarmament conveyed a rallying cry against weapons of mass destruction, echoing the long-held belief that the horrors experienced in Hiroshima and Nagasaki must never repeat themselves. The anti-nuclear movement gained traction not only within Japan but around the globe. Moreover, the moral responsibilities of scientists and policymakers took on renewed urgency in subsequent decades. The concept of a scientific ethic emerged, challenging individuals to reevaluate the consequences of their research and decisions on humanity as a whole. Educational institutions sought to incorporate lessons learned from the nuclear age into curricula, highlighting the indispensable need for ethical considerations and scientific exploration. As we approach our conclusion, it's paramount to underscore that the story of the Manhattan Project is multifaceted. It embodies not only the triumphs of human intellect but also the profound existential threats woven into the very fabric of our pursuits. The historians will reflect on this complex legacy, debating whether the innovations surrounding the bomb justified the ethical costs. But beyond academic discussions, these stories demand our attention today in an age often characterized by rapid technological advancement. The lessons of the Manhattan Project reverberate into our present. The world finds itself confronted with complex dilemmas posed by artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and climate change, each presenting their own intricate maze of possibilities alongside dire threats. As we grapple with questions of progress in humanity, we stand as stewards of our own future. Are we prepared to learn from the past, to imbue our advancements with ethical contemplation, and to respect the delicate balance between innovation and responsibility? As we conclude our exploration, we must recognize the relentless heartbeat of human endeavor. The Manhattan Project encapsulated the duality of aspiration and devastation, prompting us to reflect on our contemporary journeys filled with well-meaning intentions. This tale is not merely an echo of what has transpired, it is a still relevant dialogue on the implications of knowledge and responsibility, a reminder of both our frailties and our potential. In this ever-evolving narrative of human history, may we strive for wisdom grounded in empathy as we navigate the complex intersections of science, morality, and the future of our shared world. Confronting the legacy of the Manhattan Project challenges each of us to remain vigilant, aware, and committed to the pursuit of peace in all its forms. As we reckon with the shadows of the past, let us be inspired by the idea that we have the power to shape an alternate trajectory, one defined not by division and destruction but by collaboration and hope. Thus, while we honor the lessons unfolded in Los Alamos and beyond, we also open the door to the potential of a brighter tomorrow.